Jesus wants to speak and to listen, so he will speak and listen with Jesus. Come divine will, come speaking my speaking, listening our listening, thinking our thinking, breathing our breathing. 2 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 18. But we all with unveiled faces, looking as in a mirror at the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from glory to glory, just as from the Lord, the Spirit. Volume 5, June 30th, 1903. The Most Holy Virgin teaches the soul how to keep her interior gaze fixed on Jesus, the beauty of the interior soul. As I was outside of myself, I saw the Queen Mother, and prostrating myself at her feet, I said to her, "My most sweet Mother, in what terrible constraints I find myself, deprived of my only good and of my very life. I feel I am touching the extremes." I've put an image of a storm on there because I have conversations with people all the time about their relationship with Jesus, and more often than not there is a storm raging because they feel deprived of the presence of God in one way or another. That's on the surface. While saying this, I was crying, and the Most Holy Virgin, opening herself at the place of her heart, as if she were opening a tabernacle. Please notice that for later on, as if she were opening a tabernacle, took the baby from within it and gave him to me, telling me, "My daughter, do not cry. Here is your good, your life, your all. Take him and keep him always with you. And as you keep him with you, keep your interior gaze fixed on him. Do not be embarrassed if he does not tell you anything, or if you are unable to say anything. Just look at him in your interior, and by looking at him, you will comprehend everything. You will do everything. You will satisfy for all." So notice, by just simply gazing upon Jesus, by simply gazing upon him, the soul comprehends everything. The soul can do everything. The soul can satisfy for all, just by gazing upon Jesus in the divine will. And Our Lady says, don't be embarrassed if he doesn't tell you anything. Don't be embarrassed if he is silent. Be silent with him. If he does not say anything, or if you're unable to say anything. Don't forget, Italians like a chat. They like a conversation. So for those of you who struggle with silence, this is Our Lady. Remember the Book of Heaven, the call to the creature, to the order. And the first step, I guess, is always going to be silence. This is the beauty of the interior soul. Please highlight those words. This is the beauty of the interior soul. Without voice, without education, since there is no external thing that attracts her or upsets her, but all of her attraction, all of her goods are enclosed in her interior. By simply looking at Jesus, who is the life of the soul, God is the life of the soul, by just gazing at him, she easily comprehends everything and does everything. Now notice that there is no external thing that attracts the soul or upsets her. So all the storms are on the surface. For the soul in a state of grace gazing at Jesus, it's like that lake. All is calm, all is still. In this way, by gazing upon Jesus, you will walk up to the top of Calvary, and once we reach it, notice so Mary's going to walk with you, you will no longer see him as a baby, but crucified, and you will remain crucified together with him. As St. Paul writes, "My life, I am crucified to the world, and the world is crucified to me." So St. Paul saw it as well. He was crucified. And you've been called to this. So it seemed that with the baby in my arms, and together with the Most Holy Virgin, we walked the way of Calvary. While walking, at times I would find someone who wanted to take Jesus away from me, and I would call the Queen Mother to my help, saying to her, "My Mama, help me, for they want to snatch Jesus away from me." Folks, you're going to have that all your life. People wanting to snatch away the richness of the divine will, the richness of the relationship with Jesus. Notice that Louisa doesn't fight them. She talks to the Queen Mother. Whenever you feel someone's taking Jesus away, don't trust in your own resources to fight the battle. Turn to the Queen of the Heaven's armies. She would answer me, "Do not fear. Your care must be in keeping your interior gaze fixed on him. This has so much power that all other powers, human and diabolical, remain debilitated and defeated." Extraordinary words. To win those spiritual battles, all you have to do is keep your gaze fixed on Jesus. That's all you have to do. This is what Our Lady is saying. She's saying how much power this has. Just by doing that, all the enemies are brought to their knees. You win the victories. And this is Pope John Paul II from Novo Millennio Iniente. Our witness, however, would be hopelessly inadequate if we ourselves had not first contemplated his face. How can we win souls to Christ effectively? How can we win the battles in other people's souls if we haven't first won the battle in our own soul? By first practicing that interior gazing upon Jesus, contemplating his face within us, our witness will become wonderfully fruitful. But unless we first fix our gaze upon Jesus, our witness is always going to be hopelessly inadequate. To contemplate the face of Christ and to contemplate it with Mary is the program which I set before the Church at the dawn of the third millennium, summoning her to put out into the deep and the sea of history with the enthusiasm of the new evangelization. To contemplate Christ involves being able to recognize him wherever he manifests himself, in his many forms of presence, but above all, in the living sacrament of his body and blood. The Church draws her life from Christ in the Eucharist. By him she is fed, by him she is enlightened. The Eucharist, now notice that, enlightened, he will teach you everything. The Eucharist is both a mystery of faith and a mystery of light. Whenever the Church celebrates the Eucharist, the faithful can in some way relive the experience of the two disciples on the road to Emmaus. Their eyes were opened and they recognized him. May the Lord open your eyes so you can recognize him in your interior. That's from Ecclesia de Eucharistia, written around 2002, and I just point out again, to contemplate the face of Christ and to contemplate it with Mary is the program that John Paul II set before the Church at the dawn of this millennium. Now this is going back to Louisa. Now while we were walking, we found a temple in which Holy Mass was being celebrated. At the time of Holy Communion, I flew to the altar with the baby in my arms in order to receive communion. But what was not surprised when as soon as Jesus Christ entered into me, he disappeared from my arms. Then after a little while I found myself inside myself. The Eucharist is the source and summit of the Christian life. The other sacraments, and indeed all ecclesiastical ministries and works of the apostolate are bound up with the Eucharist and are oriented toward it. For it is the Blessed Eucharist. For in the Blessed Eucharist is contained the whole spiritual good of the Church, namely Christ himself, our Pasch. So notice that when Louisa receives the Eucharist, the baby vanishes because she has the sacramental reality. And she has everything she needs in the Eucharist. Just as Our Lady says, if you gaze upon him, keep your eyes fixed on him, You have everything you need. In the Eucharist, we have everything we need. We have everything. We have the living in the divine will. Fiat voluntas tua.